Hello again. I'm uploading more videos. That means I'm on a roll, right? Wrong. No, I'm just kidding. You're right. Okay. So today I wanted to do a video on lesson planning to kind of give people an idea, like, hey, when you go to work for EPIK, what are you going to be spending most of your time? Obviously you're going to be teaching a lot, but you're also going to be planning a lot. Or I just plan a lot. I don't know. So I wanted to make a video dedicated on this subject. This is my desk. I just cleaned it up. It looks really spiffy. Also, look, I'm forever alone. There's no one else here. Today is also the hottest day of the week. I believe it's 36 degrees, which is crazy, but it's all good because we have aircon. Look at that. We have aircon. Yeah, so we have aircon. And I'm alone. There was one other teacher, but I think he went home covertly. That's okay. I don't blame him. Okay. So, oh my god. Also, I have a cold, so I'm sorry. So, let's get into the video or something. I don't know. Okay, so just some background information. My school is huge. We have about 1,200 students, and I only get to see my kids at least once a week. So I teach 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. Now, they have English lessons 3 times a week, but I only see them 1 time a week. So that means I'm not sure exactly what part of the lesson that we're going to be doing. So the first thing I do is I send a message to my co-teacher and I ask her, hey, what are we going to be teaching next week? And then usually they will give me a reply. They'll say, oh, we're teaching, chapter so-and-so and this period. Now, when they mention the period, this is really critical because each period of each chapter in the book represents 2 different language skills. So once I know what the language skills are and what the target language is, I can go ahead and start thinking about games and motivation and so on and so forth. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So again, step 1, I talk to my co-teachers. So after my teacher tells me what I'm going to be teaching for the following week, I like to go ahead and start writing a lesson plan. So again, my predecessor, she left me this awesome template and I use it for every single lesson plan ever. So in here I just fill out some basic information like the grade, name of the chapter we're studying, blah blah blah. This kind of keeps it all organized so when I print out my paper copies I can have it on hand and it's easier to file. And the next thing I like to do is like to fill out the objectives. Now for the objectives are really important. This is probably the first thing you should fill out before even thinking about making the games or the motivations or anything like that. Everyone should write a lesson plan. If you're at the very beginning stages of teaching, I think lesson plans are great. Of course, that's not going to apply to everyone. It depends on how much your co-teachers are willing to let you teach in your class. So like here's an example of one lesson plan. This is for the 5th grade. I have all the information filled out. I have the class broken up into different sections, right? So I have the introduction here, just like the basic warm-up greetings, small talk activities. And then we go directly into the motivation. So you make the students think about what they're going to be studying today. And then every class is broken into 3 sections. So usually we have activity 1, 2, and 3. So we follow the format of the textbook really closely. So actually let me show you the textbook. So textbook I use 천재. And just take this out. So let's see, what chapter is it? It's chapter 7, section 3. So let's look for it. Chapter 7, section 3. So here we go. So here's the textbooks that the students use. So this is one period that we would cover in a lesson. So like I said, we break down the lesson into 3 parts. So the first part is going to be speak and read. And so here the students can practice reading out loud these different sentences from their textbook. Really boring, honestly. We usually change it up. But we still have the students practicing reading these sentences out loud. We just don't use the textbook very much. And the next part is read and do. It's basically reading comprehension. So we ask the students to get out their pencils and do this section. Along with this section, because it's really easy for our kids that are pretty high level, we make them do fun with words. And fun with words is basically they practice reading and writing. The last activity 3, is read and play. We never ever use the textbook games. They're kind of lame. If anything, we will use the cards that they offer in the back of this textbook, and we'll make card games and so on and so forth. The cards are really nice, but for the most part we come up with our own games because textbook games tend to not motivate our students very much. Sorry, Chonje. Now, if there's any part of, the student book that I don't really understand, what I can do is I can go over to the teacher's guide, which is totally in Korean, but that's fine. You should learn Korean anyways. You live in Korea. Hello. And you can look through and you can see what some of the teaching strategies they use, the textbook publishers use for teaching their material, so you can get a clearer view. Now, if, the textbook helper guide thing for teachers, if it's not clear enough for you, then you can use the CD. And this is not the right CD, but I'll get it out eventually. Yeah, so use the CD. And you put it in. And you push it in there. You can check the CD and see what it's gonna be like. Honestly, the CD is more critical for the first 2 periods, especially for this textbook that I use. Where is it? Here it is. Open. Okay. This is a CD-ROM. So, I mean, obviously you can scope out everything. So let's look at speak and read. You can see how everything is laid out in the textbook. They have some pre-recorded dialogue and the students can practice saying it along. Okay, and then read and do. You can use the CD-ROM to show the answers. Like if the students do their book work, you can use these to like show the answers, right? Boom! Oh wow, it's all the right answers. So fun. And then, yeah, blah 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 blah. Really fun. Anyway, the textbook I would say is more critical for introducing the language. So the first 2 periods of this textbook introduce new key expressions and show like how they're used. They basically contextualize those key expressions with the dialogue. There's usually a little cartoon. Yeah, so you can watch the cartoon. I'm not gonna play it because, I don't know, copyright. One big thing I like to do with this dialogue part is I like to take pictures from here and I like to turn it into fancy PPTs where you can check the students' listening comprehension. So I have a quiz here. Oh, this is my grandparents. So I'll post up 3 or 4 questions to test to see if students were listening. So I would ask the students like, oh, hey, what did Yuna ask David? And then students can raise their hand and they can answer, what will you do this summer? And you can make the other students repeat after that student or whatever. Basically, you check the students' comprehension. That's what I do. I make these PPTs. Okay, I also mentioned motivation PPTs. Now, motivation is, I know it sounds so weird as like a native English speaker. You're like, what? Motivation? No, motivation basically means you need to make the students guess or become curious about what they're gonna be learning. So that could be in the shape of like PowerPoint presentation, or it could be a video, it could be you doing a skit with your teacher, it could be any of those things, really, right? So I think in this case, I asked my co-teacher, I was like, hey, what will you do this summer? And she said, I'll go to Seoul. And she asked me, hey, what will you do this summer? I will say, I will go to the beach. I will do snorkeling. Things like that to make the students interested. It really helps to have strong visuals. That way the students are engaged and it's interesting. It's more fun, right? Right. So that's motivation. Okay, so maybe after you look through your textbook, your CD-ROM for the book, and also the teacher's guide, you can start thinking of some ideas for the 3rd period. As you noticed, It's a speaking and reading based period, so I have to think about different activities for the kids that make them use their speaking and their reading skills. Anyways, the last part I usually focus on is the game. So I like to go to, not my YouTube, I like to go to waygook.org. Now this website is really awesome. It has so many different games, and you can even find, you know, games that will match your lesson plan, the chapter that you have to teach. All you have to do is just look through the different indexes and go on and find it. Usually what I'll do is I won't use the exact same game. I'll modify it to, you know, my own standards. Like, I'm very picky. I'm a picky person. So I like to take the ideas and just try and make them better. I'm not trying to put down any of the original authors. I'm just, you know. So for example, like, I'm a big visual person. So for the game for Baskin Robbins, what I did was I saw the template on Waygook, but I decided, you know, what could I do to make this more fun looking, more professional looking for my kids? So I found a, you know, clip art pattern of some ice cream, and I basically just threw this together. You know, things like that. That's what I like to do. I like to make things prettier, I guess. I don't know. You know, same thing with cards. I like to make my own cards. I like to make my own Go Fish cards, or, you know, card games, things like that. And I like to use pretty patterns because I like design and art, whatever. This is the only thing I didn't change though. Another good example of me changing something is this board game. Someone had posted up their idea originally on Waygook, and I love the idea. It was great. I didn't like how the board looked though, so I made my own. You know. So it's totally up to you. You could just use the materials on Waygook as is. You don't have to be like me and go in and redesign everything like a crazy mofo. That's just what I like to do. I like to do designy things. One thing I do recommend though is if you are looking through these files, be sure that you proofread the files. Some of the files have very minor mistakes, but my co-teachers will point them out to me and be like, hey, isn't this supposed to be capitalized? So anyway, you have to be careful. Check through the materials carefully before using them. I recommend that you use the games that, you know, engage students the best, that have students practicing the target language as much as possible. I don't recommend trying to make a new game for every chapter or every period, because that is exhausting. And I have tried to go there, and it's awful. I would spend, at the very beginning, I would spend like literally all day trying to find the perfect game. Not find, trying to make the perfect game, and it would take me 3 hours just to plan one lesson. That's ridiculous. Don't do that to yourself. You don't have to, you know, invent the wheel again. That's not what you're here to do, okay? That's my recommendations. Anyway, I hope this was a useful video. I might, I don't know, reshoot this on Monday if I don't like it at home this weekend. But we'll see. If you have any questions about teaching in South Korea or lesson planning or anything like that, leave your questions down below. By the way, I know there's a lot of people who follow me for, you know, college and scholarship advice. I do have ideas for those. I just haven't gotten around to them. My husband and I, we are leaving Korea, so we're trying to wrap up all of our loose ends before we take off from here, but they are coming, okay? Alright, so I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!